The present directors, who have controlled the destiny of Celtic for a generation, have spent the day in crisis session. It followed a split in the board after the club's bankers had warned that the receivers were poised to move in and take over the running of the club. Tonight, Reporting Scotland understands that the Canadian millionaire Fergus McCann will join the board along with Dominic Keane, a former banker at the Royal Bank of Scotland in Edinburgh, and a third as yet unnamed individual. We also understand that out will go the club's secretary, Chris White, until tonight the biggest single shareholder. Out too will go David Smith, the vice chairman and the architect of the Cambuslang deal, which caused so much controversy, and Michael Kelly, with whom cousin Kevin broke ranks last night. The Celtic fans have given the thumbs up to the move. Fergus McCann has been following the day's events.
Earlier this morning, Fergus McCann had arrived at Glasgow Airport, confident but giving nothing away.
I'd rather talk to her. I'd rather not make any comment just now. We'll be making some statements later, I'm sure.
Then it was on to Parkhead and greeted enthusiastically by the fans who had gathered there.
Any message for the fans?
Well,
Let's hope
we'll be making a statement hopefully this afternoon sometime. Sorry, I can't say so much more just now. Thank you.
For Celtic's prospective new owner, Brian Dempsey, his colleague waiting on the doorstep. A jostle through the crowd and the press photographers, and then into the meeting. Celtic's deputy chairman, David Smith, had arrived in Glasgow, saying he wouldn't resign.
Absolutely. Will you resign? Oh, I shouldn't think so. Do you think that the board are right to call for your resignation? I shouldn't think so. Did you mislead the board over the current state of the finances? Absolutely not. What will you say to the board members today? Point out the facts.
And once more, outside the building, he was absolutely clear he would not go.
Will you resign? No, of course not.
But it now looks he is going, along with Celtic secretary Chris White, who was tight-lipped when he arrived.
Resign, Mr. White.
Were you aware of the financial situation of the club, the full extent of it?
Have you any comment to make, Mr. White? How do you feel?
Celtic chairman Kevin Kelly is going to stay on the board and has now clearly allied himself with Fergus
We're just having a
McCann.
meeting this morning just to try and resolve some problems in the club and go forward, and that's the whole idea of today's meeting.
How critical are the finances?
Well, it will be resolved after today's meeting, and maybe further meetings will take place to resolve any financial problems.
Former Celtic director Brian Dempsey made it clear he wasn't seeking a place on the board.
No, I'm not interested in becoming a director. This was never about becoming a director. I didn't think the momentum of yesterday was about saving the club as such, and I didn't do it on my own. It must be put on record that a great many other people along with me did that. I'm not looking for anything myself, and I think in order to create a time of healing within the club, it's important that if other people have to step aside, then I think I should too.
Michael Kelly, it seems, is leaving the Celtic board along with Chris White. Likely to stay, Jack McGinn, Tom Grant, James Farrell, along with Kevin Kelly and a new board member, Dominic Keane.
So I think the fans have shown the club that they're the important people here, and I'm absolutely delighted. For every single person connected with Celtic, the fans have proved the point that they're the customers. They weren't happy, and they got the win in the end. It's been a long, hard struggle, but we've got what we wanted in the end.
The fans now backing the new board, new money on the way, and it seems a new era beginning at Celtic Park.
Well, that does seem likely. The team has gone 5 years without competitive honours, bringing even louder calls for change.
In comes Craig. Kimberly scored a great goal! He's done it! Bunnet.
Celtic Football Club's finest hour. Victory over Inter Milan in the European Cup in 1967. They were the first British club to lift a European title. Invincible from 1965, they won the league title 9 times. But in the early 80s, a change of ownership and extra money at rivals Rangers, coupled with a more vigorous new management style, highlighted Celtic's continuing decline. The club last won a trophy, the Scottish Cup, in 1989. Since then, Celtic and their fans have had little to celebrate. 5 members of the board of directors formed a legally binding pact, securing them 60% of the club's voting power. A chief executive, Terry Cassidy, was brought in to sharpen the club's image. With a year of his contract still to run, he left. Ambitious plans for a new stadium at Cambuslang were laid. Rival bids for ownership were made as the club's financial position weakened. The pact ensured none was successful. The fans, increasingly frustrated, threatened and finally boycotted the team's games to force the board out. Last Friday's announcement was intended as the key to secure the club's future.
Cambuslang is a reality. 2, the intention on the basis of Cambuslang to take this football club, transform this football club into a public company where there'll be a clear division of the board of the PLC that runs the company, while at the same time putting in place a club board which will preserve the traditions of Celtic Football Club. And 3, the other major item on the agenda today is the immediate move to raise between £4 and £6 million to strengthen the financial position of the club in the interim period.
In London, though, directors of the company organising the project funding seemed less clear.
Yes, I'm a director of Super Stadium. I have no comment.
And you know nothing about the Cambuslang project?
I don't handle it.
But your company is involved with Stradivarius?
Absolutely, yes. We are building Celtic's new stadium. That is correct.
But you just said you know nothing about it?
That is correct.
Confusion like this has dogged Celtic's plans for change. A reflection, it has been said, of the club's fortunes throughout the barren seasons.
The club has not been able to communicate in a way which has been credible for the past few years. People simply do not believe the board of directors, and they've not believed the board of directors en masse, so it will be interesting to see what now happens because we believe 4 of them are going to retain their places on the board. So that's half of the board and not the whole board as people have been wanting to go. I think what has happened here is that we have seen the end of the dynasties. We know that the old dynastic rule of Celtic is finished, even if there's some representation still there, and a new business-like procedure has been brought onto the board, which the fans will understand.
Well, in the last half hour, one of Celtic's new directors, Dominic Keane, a former banker, spoke to the waiting media.
Well, hopefully with my financial expertise from my days in banking, I was 21 years in the banking business, I can bring that financial stability to help Fergus and Brian to go forward.
Is it a certainty, Dominic, that you will be on the board tonight?
I would like to think so.
What does that mean to you?
What can I say? Must be the dream of every Celtic supporter.
How hard have you worked for this moment?
Well, Jim, the last 2 weeks in particular, I don't think I've got any sleep. But the most important thing is Celtic Football Club, the club that we all love.
What sort of job do you think yourself, Fergus McCann, Brian Dempsey, what sort of job can you do for this club, Dominic?
Well, I think that the most important thing is to create the stability that everybody wants who cares deeply about Celtic Football Club. And once that stability has been created, then we'll all go forward together and see Celtic back to the great days.
Do you think with you at the helm the team might win a trophy in the next season or 2?
I'm absolutely confident with Fergus and Brian. Celtic can only go one way, and that's to back to the top where they should be and always should have been.
And it appears that the club's on the brink of a new dawning, Dominic.
I hope so.
Dominic, thank you. Dominic, can you tell us who your colleagues on the board will be?
I can't say any more.